You rinse one plate at the sink, water running longer than it needs to. Your phone buzzes on the counter. Net worth, $1,004,000. You are 30 years old. Nobody else in your life knows that number exists. Let's go back 8 years to the version of you with $340 in a checking account and 4 days until rent is due. Here's the part almost nobody says about getting rich quietly. Crossing $1 million by 30 does not feel like crossing anything. It feels like an ordinary afternoon, because nobody around you gets a signal to react to. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what changes in your life when you build real wealth by 30 and tell no one. 10 specific things nobody around you ever sees, from the car repair that used to be a catastrophe to the one relative who finally gets the truth, and the 9 who never will. 10 domains. The car, the bank app, the group chat, the family group text, the loan officer, your own shoulders, the hospital bill, the friend who finally asks the right question, and the one person you will actually tell. Let's start where you already live. The moment something breaks and you don't have the money to fix it. Rule 1. The thing that breaks decides how rich you actually are, long before any account balance does. At 22, your transmission goes out on a random Thursday afternoon. The shop quotes you $1,400. You have $340. You put it on a card at 24%, and for the next 11 months, the minimum payment is the first thing you think about most mornings. You are not bad with money. You are 22 with $340 and a car that needed $1,400 it did not care whether you had. At 29, the same car, the same model, needs $2,200 in transmission work again. You pay it from checking that same week. You do not touch your investment account. You do not think about it past Thursday. You still drive the same car. You are not rich enough yet to want a different one, and rich enough now that the repair is a decision instead of a crisis. Here is the domain nobody names when they talk about getting rich. It was never about the car. It was about whether the next surprise gets to run your whole month or just gets paid and forgotten by Friday. Rule 2. Before you check the bank app the way some people check a wound to see if it's still bad. At 22, checking your balance is a Sunday night ritual, timed to whatever is left before Monday's rent autopay. The number is small enough that you have done the math on it before you open the app. You already know what you're going to see. At 30, you go 2, sometimes 3 weeks without opening it. Not because you stopped caring what happens to your money, you care more than you ever did, but because the number stopped being able to hurt you, so your brain quietly reclassified checking it as unnecessary. When you finally do look, the number barely registers as information. It is just there. Here is the part that matters more than the balance itself. Your apartment did not get bigger. Your car did not get nicer. If somebody looked at your actual life, the visible parts, nothing would tell them the difference between the version of you who dreads the app and the version who forgot to open it for 3 weeks. That is the whole point. The number changed. Nothing anyone can see changed with it. Rule 3. Before, every plan gets a silent budget review first. At 23, a friend's birthday dinner runs $60 ahead at a place with cloth napkins. You do the math before you answer the group chat, and you say you have a work thing. You do not have a work thing. You have $290 and a rent payment. At 29, at a different friend's birthday. You quietly cover the table, $42 ahead times 9 people, before the bill even reaches the group. Nobody sees you do it. The waiter just brings one card back. For about 6 weeks, this feels like the good version of having money. Then someone notices the pattern, asks, half joking, if you got a raise nobody heard about, and you say you got a bonus. You never do it again that visibly. You go back to splitting checks like everyone else, on purpose, because the alternative is a conversation you are not ready to have. Here is the trap in this domain that nobody warns you about. Generosity is the fastest way to accidentally tell your secret. The version of you with money learns to be exactly as careful with kindness as with anything else that could give the number away. Rule 4. Before, you ask for money the way you ask a stranger for a favor, apologizing before the sentence finishes. At 22, you rehearse asking for a $2 raise for 3 days and still soften it into a question when you finally say it out loud. You get $1. You say thank you. At 28, your manager offers you a lateral move with a bigger title and a slightly bigger number attached. You turn it down. Not because the money is bad, because you no longer need any specific job to make your life work, and the role would cost you 60-hour weeks you have no reason to give away. You tell your manager it is not the right fit. That is true. It is just not the whole truth. Here's the domain that separates having money from being free with it. At 22, every financial decision runs through what you need. At 28, most of them run through what you actually want, and almost nobody around you can tell the difference from the outside, because you never once say the real reason out loud. Rule 5. This is the one that costs the most to get right. At 23, your brother calls about a car payment, $400, due in 2 days. You do not have it. You tell him you don't. And you hear something shift in his voice, not anger, just a quiet recalibration of what he can count on you for. You carry that call for weeks. At 29, your sister needs $6,000 for a medical bill insurance did not fully cover. You wire it the same afternoon. When she asks how you had it sitting there, you tell her it is from some savings you have been putting away. You do not tell her the actual number. You do not tell her about the other 5 accounts. You let her believe it cost you more than it did, because the alternative, the full truth, would change how she sees every gift you ever give her again. If your family has ever asked you for money you didn't have yet, drop a comment. Here is what this domain teaches you that no other one does. Being able to help is not the hard part. Deciding how much of the truth comes with the help, that is the part nobody prepares you for. Quick thing before we keep going, if this is landing, subscribe. It's the easiest way to make sure the next one reaches you. Okay, back to it. Rule 6. Before, you are a risk that needs proving otherwise. At 22, the apartment application asks for a cosigner because your income-to-rent ratio does not clear the bar on its own. You call your mother. It is a hard call to make. At 29, you apply for a mortgage pre-approval, and it comes back the same afternoon. No cosigner, no extra document requests. A loan officer who addresses you differently than the one who once needed your mother's signature on a lease. Your car in the parking lot is the same car. Your clothes are the same clothes. The only thing that changed is a number in a system you never see directly, and that number apparently does most of the talking before you say a word. Here is the part worth sitting with. Institutions do not know you built this quietly. They do not know or care about the 8 years, the freelance nights, the transmission you paid cash for at 29 instead of financing at 22. They only see the number. And the number, once it is large enough, gets you a version of trust you spent your whole 20s not having, without you ever explaining a single thing about how you got it. Rule 7. Before, you apologize before you have said anything worth apologizing for. At 22, in meetings, you preface a real question with sorry. This might be a dumb question, out of habit, not humility. Your shoulders sit up near your ears most of the workday without you noticing. At 29, a coworker who has known you 3 years asks, half laughing, "What happened to you? You used to be so wound up." You do not have an answer you are willing to give. The truth, that somewhere around $250,000, your shoulders simply stopped bracing before every financial conversation, without you ever deciding to relax on purpose, is not something you say out loud in a break room. Here is the domain most people never think to look for. The money changes your body before it changes anything you own. Nobody can point to what is different. They can only feel that something is, and the closest most of them get is a joke about how relaxed you seem lately, which you deflect, because explaining the real reason would mean explaining everything. Rule 8. Before, a bad month at the hospital is a bad year on paper. At 23, a $410 emergency room copay for a sprained wrist eats the grocery budget for 3 weeks. You do not sleep well the night you get the bill. It is not the injury. It is the math. At 30, a real scare, an overnight hospital stay, a $4,100 bill after insurance, arrives in the mail. You pay it in one transfer and go back to your normal week. You are not careless about your health, and you are not pretending the number does not matter. It is just that, for the first time in your life, a real financial shock does not touch your sleep, your appetite, or your ability to function the next day. And that is a kind of quiet. You spent 22 years assuming other people got to have, and you did not. Here is the reframe worth keeping. The floor did not get more exciting. It just stopped being able to drop out from under you. And that, more than any number in an app, is what people actually mean when they say they feel rich. Rule 9. Here is the one nobody warns you about, because it does not sound like a cost until you are living inside it. At 22, your life is an open book because there is nothing in it worth hiding. Every financial fact about you is available to anyone who asks, because none of it is dangerous information. At 30, you have a number most people in your life would react to in ways you cannot predict and cannot take back. You decide, carefully, who is allowed to know the real figure. Your partner knows. One friend from college knows, most by accident. Your parents know you are doing well, not the actual number. Everyone else gets a version of you that looks exactly like the person they have always known because the alternative risks changing every relationship you have, and not always for the better. Here is what this domain actually costs. Not money, never money. It costs you the specific everyday relief of being fully known by the people around you. You built something real. You built it quietly enough that almost nobody gets to actually see it. That trade-off was never explained to you in advance, and by 30, you understand exactly why nobody explains it. That is Rule 9, and it is the only one on this list that has nothing to do with money at all. Rule 10. This is the domain you never once thought about at 22, because at 22, surviving the month was the whole plan. At 22, nobody in your family has ever had enough left over to think 2 generations ahead. Money moves in one direction in your family, from whoever has a little to whoever has less, and it always has. At 30, you quietly open an account for your niece, who is 4 years old and will never remember a version of her family where this kind of thing was not possible. You do not tell anyone the amount. You do not make it an occasion. You just set up the transfer and let it run, the same way you did at 22 with $500 a month and no audience. Here is the last domain, and the one that actually matters most. You did not become a millionaire by 30 so you could have more. You became one so that the next person in your family with $340 in checking and 4 days until rent would not have to start completely alone. Nobody knows that either. Not yet. So here is the honest shape of it. The car repair stopped being a crisis. The bank app stopped being a wound. The group chat stopped being a math problem. The raise conversation stopped being a plea. Your family got help without ever getting the real number. Institutions started trusting a version of you that looks identical to the one they used to doubt. Your shoulders came down. A real hospital bill stopped touching your sleep. You learned exactly what silence costs. And somewhere in a savings account nobody has asked about yet, the next generation of your family got a head start you never had. None of this happened because you got lucky, and none of it happened overnight. It happened in 8 years, one automatic transfer at a time, one freelance invoice at a time, one raise you negotiated quietly instead of announcing. The version of you at 22 with $340 would not recognize most of this. The version of you at 30 would tell him it was never about the number showing up in one dramatic moment. It was about becoming the kind of person the number could not change, in front of people who never got to see it happen. If you want the Quiet Wealth Field Guide, the checklist for building real numbers without announcing a single one of them, the link is in the description. It is free. If you're first in your family doing this quietly, drop a comment. And if you want to see what happens when somebody chooses the opposite path and builds it loud, that video is right here. And before you go, if this helped, like it, subscribe, and tell me one thing in the comments so the next one finds you.